I straightened my jacket one last time before stepping into the glass-walled conference room of Vantage Technologies, the company that had been my professional home for the past 4 years. The quarterly leadership meeting was about to begin, and as senior project manager, I was prepared to present the results of my team's latest software development initiative, a project I'd personally led to completion 3 weeks ahead of schedule and 12% under budget. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed to catch more stories like this. The conference room hummed with pre-meeting chatter, executives arranging themselves around the sleek mahogany table like chess pieces taking position. Mark Taylor, the CEO, sat at the head, scrolling through his phone with a furrowed brow. His right-hand man, Andrew Peterson, occupied the seat beside him, both men in similar charcoal suits that seemed to be the unofficial uniform of Vantage's upper management. I took my assigned seat, placed my laptop and portfolio on the table, and nodded greetings to my colleagues. Despite my title and proven track record, I was always conscious of being one of only 2 women in these leadership meetings. The other, Sarah from HR, caught my eye from across the table and gave me an encouraging smile. "Let's get started," Mark announced, his voice instantly silencing the room. "We've got a packed agenda today, starting with the Horizon acquisition update." Andrew stood, straightening his tie with a practiced motion. "The Horizon deal is proceeding as planned. We expect to finalize within the month, which positions us perfectly for the MedTech conference in Seattle." Mark nodded approvingly as Andrew continued outlining the acquisition strategy. The room's attention fixed on his presentation. I reviewed my own notes, adding a few last-minute points about my team's performance metrics, confident our achievements would speak for themselves when my turn came. An hour into the meeting, after detailed discussions about market expansion and competitive analysis, Mark finally turned to me. "Emily, you're up. The Skyline project update." I stood, connecting my laptop to the room's display system. "Thank you, Mark. I'm pleased to report that the Skyline project has exceeded expectations in all areas." My presentation was meticulously prepared, clean, data-driven slides outlining how my team had not only delivered the client's custom enterprise software ahead of schedule, but had also implemented additional security features the client hadn't initially requested but enthusiastically embraced. The early delivery allowed Skyline Industries to begin their digital transformation process ahead of schedule, I explained, highlighting projected productivity increases. Additionally, our team's innovative approach to security protocols had already been highlighted by Skyline's CTO as a key differentiator from competitors. As I spoke, I noticed Mark and Andrew exchanging glances and whispers, barely paying attention to the results I was presenting. My confidence wavered momentarily, but I continued, moving to client satisfaction metrics that showed unanimous approval from Skyline's leadership team. In summary, I concluded, the Skyline project represents one of our most successful implementations to date, with potential for significant expanded services in the next fiscal year. They're already discussing having us develop their mobile platform, which would represent approximately $23 million in additional revenue. I expected at least a perfunctory acknowledgement of these results, perhaps even the standard "good work" Mark typically offered after successful project presentations. Instead, he merely nodded and said, "Thanks, Emily. Arthur, you're next with the quarterly finance update." The abrupt dismissal caught me off guard. I returned to my seat, a knot forming in my stomach as Arthur took over the presentation screen. Throughout Arthur's detailed breakdown of quarterly finances, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, especially given the continued sidelong glances between Mark and Andrew. The meeting concluded 2 hours later with Mark's usual rallying speech about market domination and exceptional performance. As everyone gathered their materials, Mark called out, "Emily, Andrew, can you both stay behind for a moment?" The conference room emptied quickly, leaving me with the 2 men. Mark remained seated at the head of the table, while Andrew stood with his arms crossed, leaning against the glass wall. "Emily," Mark began, his tone oddly formal, "we need to discuss your role here at Vantage." The knot in my stomach tightened. "Of course. Is there a concern about the Skyline project?" "No," Mark replied dismissively. "This is about Vantage's strategic direction and leadership needs." Andrew stepped forward. "We're restructuring the project management division in light of our upcoming expansion, particularly with the Horizon acquisition." I wasn't sure I understood, though a sinking feeling suggested I did. Mark cleared his throat. "Emily, you've done good work here, but we need someone who can bring a certain presence to client relations as we move into more competitive territory." "My client satisfaction scores are the highest in the division," I pointed out. "Skyline specifically requested me." "It's not about metrics," Andrew interjected. "It's about fit." They decided to bring in someone else. I was being replaced. My last day would be today. I left the building with a cardboard box and a call to the one person who truly understood. "Sophia, it's Emily. I've just been fired." I met Sophia for a drink later that evening and discussed my options. I didn't want an expensive legal fight for my job back, as even if I won, the bad culture would still remain. I decided to venture out on my own and created a successful competing company. That call had marked the beginning of everything that followed. I built Prism Technologies, an implementation consultancy that was focused on user acceptance as well as technical excellence. I had secured venture capital to start my consultancy with a contact and advice from Sophia, who had also once been fired from a male-dominant company who believed women were not suitable for leadership positions. I secured the client's Vantage lost and watched from a distance as Mark Taylor eventually resigned. Years later, I returned to that same building, not as an employee, but as a consultant and CEO of my own company. Someone once told me I didn't have the leadership presence required for success. Standing there, I finally understood the truth. Leadership isn't about fitting a mold. It's about results, values, and the courage to build something better when you're told you don't belong. Sometimes, being fired is the best thing that can happen to you. If you've been discriminated against for being female, this story will resonate with you. Like and subscribe, and help us bring you more stories like this.